Zion Williamson is up to an unprecedented start to his NBA career, averaging 24 points, 7 rebounds, and only in 29 minutes per game at the moment. Also shooting nearly 60% from the field. So, I'm going to ask Colin and Roman today if if Zion can be the best player on a championship team.
Yes. I think Zion definitely can be the best player on a championship team. Not right now, not in, 2-3 years, maybe like 5-6 years.
Well, he's only 19, so...
Kid's only 19.
Got some time.
Kid's younger than me.
Rip.
Can I call Zion a kid to his face?
Looking up at him,
hey kid! But I think Zion can be the best player on a championship team, but I think there needs to be a little, like a few specifics. I think Zion needs to have an elite level point guard. As a guy who is not yet a ball handler, to a certain degree, obviously he can handle the ball and he can carry his own weight with that, but I don't think he's a ball handler enough where he can, take guys one-on-one on the outside of the three-point line instead of, boxing players down in the post. I think Zion needs a guy who can get him the ball when he's running those fast breaks, when he's posting up on smaller guards, who can find those angles when he's cutting to the rim. Much like Alonzo Ball. I think Zion...
You said he needs an elite point
I
also think Zion needs shooters around him. What?
Alonzo Ball. Like, you were talking about how elite this point A to be.
Alonzo in the ring.
You're like, kind of like Lonzo.
Someone who's a great distributor like Lonzo.
Okay.
Doesn't have to be Lonzo, but that's my point.
Yes.
And
shouldn't be
I
Lonzo.
think if Zion's going to be the best player on the championship team, he needs to have shooters around him. Obviously, much like, with LeBron, with Giannis, guys like that. Embiid, big freaks of nature who are going to attract, double, triple teams when they're on the low block. You want shooters that are going to be ready to make open shots.
Kind of like what the Bucks are doing with Giannis. Zion Williamson, I agree, can be the best player on a championship team. He can be an MVP. He can be a Finals MVP. The thing is, they just need to build
you need the right team around. You can't
right
just
players.
build any.
Yeah, it's not like
you can't just throw players and be like, oh, it'll be with Zion.
I'm looking at like Luka Doncic. I don't need to focus as much on it, but like with Giannis and Zion, like what they need to do with Zion is build the proper.
There are specific players that you
him.
need to build around a player like that.
Can we compare it to how kind of Denver built around Jokic?
I mean,
they threw a bunch of shooters around him, then gave him a good ball handler in Jamal.
Yeah, it is true. That is how you use a big physical big.
You need to smartly build around Zion. Like, he's not going to be carrying the ball, so you need a good guard. But get him in the post. I think he can average high 20s, low 30s per game.
100%.
Like, I see his
100%
career. Maybe a couple seasons he'll average more than 30, but like high 20s for sure.
I can definitely see some double-digit rebound seasons too. For him.
Like he can average some insane like 28, 29, and 13 seasons.
Probably.
Especially when he starts playing more
29
minutes.
29 and 13.
When he starts playing more, it's utterly ridiculous. It's Giannis numbers for a guy who's 6'7", is he?
He's 6'7" with shoes. With shoes.
Oh wow.
With shoes?
So he's 6'6" basically.
Damn.
So it's insane.
Scary.
Also, the NBA is focused on wing players. The last non-wing player to get a Finals MVP was Kobe Bryant in 2010, and he also
Kobe. I guess you could call a wing player.
Yeah.
You could.
Yeah.
The last out and out guard to get a Finals MVP is Tony Parker in 2007. So we're going to small forwards. The last since 2012, every year has been a small forward Finals MVP. LeBron, Kawhi, Iguodala, Kevin Durant. Those are the only guys on the list, and obviously some have repeated. But like you had the Splash Brothers in their prime. Andre Iguodala won a Finals MVP, and then Kevin Durant came in, cleaned up, and won both times. Right?
Yep.
So, the forwards can win it. Like Dirk won it from the position in 2011. So he can be the best player on a championship team.
Roman, what do you think?
Of what, Zion?
Can Zion be the best player on a championship?
But you basically covered everything. Exactly what I think. He needs somebody around him that is very close to him or just a little bit worse. We're looking at basically Curry,
I
Thompson.
I don't think he needs.
I think he needs something
elite point guard.
No,
I think
I
he
think
needs
he-
a good point guard.
Throw an example. I'm curious.
He needs a
I
fringe
think-
all-star like Brandon Ingram would be fine, and then just set up a cast around them.
All
Set
right,
up a
You
you
could
shooter.
give him like even like a Derrick Rose, like a guy like
Jamal Murray?
a guy
Throw
who
his name out
can
again?
give him the
Yeah.
ball, who can set him up and can give him the ball in places where he can succeed.
You know, this sounds like Ricky Rubio to me.
I was kind of thinking that.
Oh,
I'm
but
not.
I don't. You know
as,
what?
As much of a joke as it is, if you don't know, I actually run a Rubio fan account.
Check
but
it out.
Free promotion.
I am not joking when I say, like, if you want a guy who's just gonna give you
Facilitate
the fucking
offense.
ball
Yes.
where you want it, in the post, behind the lines to get you buckets, not take away any touches, Ricky Rubio can be your guy.
Yes,
And it's kind of like what
absolutely.
Lonzo Ball is doing. I think Ricky Rubio does it better than Lonzo Ball does
Yeah, that- yeah, for
at
sure.
the moment.
Yeah, yeah.
He's not as good of a defender, obviously, but you know, Lonzo Ball would be. I think they have pieces in place to make a run. I
Yeah.
think Lonzo Ball is going to start to get better. I think Bi is going to excel even further.
I think
Zion's
BI is just gonna be
Zion's
very,
gonna be
very
a
good, yeah.
goon. Just get like a
Shooters.
shooter.
JJ,
get
yeah.
another guard to help them out. Like you got JJ Redick. Like that is a perfect
That's
piece to have. That is a
huge.
perfect piece to have off your bench. Just
Mhm.
comes in, bang, 6 points.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, right?
Yeah,
So
for sure.
We're kind of looking at what Milwaukee did when they brought in Bledsoe.
Yeah, that's. I mean, yeah. If you have a guard that can give your best player the ball in their best scoring, you know, in the
Yeah,
in the place where they put in work the best, then why not? Like you don't need. Like you don't need like a Steph Curry or like a Kemba Walker kind of guard who's more of like a
Okay, that's fair. Now I look at it.
like a I don't want to say selfish, but more of like an isolation type guard. Like yeah, they get like 5-6 assists, but their primary goal is to score, not to facilitate. That's what
Gotcha.
I think you need a kind of guy like that when you're
Pass first.
dealing with a guy like Zion, Giannis, LeBron, Joel Embiid. You need a guy like that who's willing to set up his teammate in the best possible position for the team to succeed.
And it's also you've got ISO driven guy like Brandon Ingram who can just score a fuck ton.
Exactly, yeah.
You've got Zion in the post. Maybe you get a bit of a defensive big. I mean, they have
Yeah,
Derek
for
Favors.
sure.
They have Derek Favors as well.
Yeah.
Who's a good defensive piece off the bench.
And Zion can hold his own on defense too.
I
Like,
think-
Zion's not a bad
yeah.
defender
I
at
think
all.
you could do
Yeah.
with a scoring option from the guard position on the bench.
Yeah.
I think Derrick Rose is one like you said that could be somewhere along those lines. Maybe he doesn't need to be as good as that. But
And do
somebody
I say
like
it? But
that.
Fred VanVleet, if he leaves the
And
Raptors,
yeah, that would be a perfect guy to have on your
that
bench.
would
That'd
be
be terrifying.
lovely. That would be
yeah,
lovely.
you're-
You
I
think
was
he's
thinking
on the
of that.
bench?
Ooh, he could start.
He could
honestly,
start-
I think he starts.
him at the
Substitute.
one, Lonzo
Yep.
at the two, Bi, Zion, and
Or
then
vice versa, yeah.
maybe like Okafor just for the defense.
You can bring in some
Favors for the defense. I don't know. You probably bring in another
You can bring in
a big, but like
Big's not like a
man,
five
that looks
nowadays.
like a serviceable starting five.
That's what
That's
I'm
a
saying.
very
Look,
serviceable
look,
starting
That's if
five.
Freddie
Look,
leaves, which is
Yeah.
But yeah, a Fred VanVleet like player,
Yes.
somebody like that. Like this team, I think has the core to succeed.
Yeah.
I think this team has the core to not right now, but few years. LeBron isn't in the league anymore, or
Yeah.
is regressed if he ever does.
Yeah.
Maybe like 4 or 5 years down the line, you don't have to deal with LeBron anymore. Maybe Giannis is starting to tail off
You're
a
gonna
bit.
have to deal with
Um,
Doncic.
Yeah, you're gonna have to deal with those guys, but
probably still Curry Thompson.
but you're gonna
most definitely.
but these guys are gonna be growing together.
for
You're-
sure.
Like Bi, Zion, Lonzo's gonna get a bit better. He's gonna his facilitation is gonna improve. Alexander Walker
nah,
is
Alexander
gonna.
Walker.
he's promising.
He's
I
gonna- he's
like his
promising,
game.
Can
Yeah.
improve to a solid bench
I like his
option.
game.
Josh Hart isn't a scrub. That guy can improve. Like I said, Derek Favors. If you can kind of keep a guy like that around, you can add options. Like another one I'm thinking about right now. Bogdanovich is a free agent at the end of the season.
Oh yeah.
Perhaps a shooting defensive
That's
wing.
not a
yeah.
bad guy to have
Yep.
shooting from the wing, right? So there's options. The thing is, they're right now focusing on building around these guys. They don't need, I don't think, the piece. They don't need that. Huge
I don't think they need that piece
acquisition.
right now. I think you let the team grow, see
That's
what
I
it
mean.
is.
You
yeah.
don't. You don't. I don't think they. I think they will succeed in the future without acquiring that big acquisition.
I think so too. I think if you just get the right pieces around Zion, Zion will take you there.
Yeah, New Orleans, it's looking like a very attractive place to land right now to anybody
Especially-
coming in. Or
And especially if Zion is
Oh, yeah.
willing to commit to New Orleans,
good
because
fan base as well.
right, I think New Orleans really needed a guy like Zion. And obviously, if he decides to stay, then that's a huge attraction.
Oh, I
for
can't
the
see him
free agents.
leaving.
Like,
I was
yeah.
surprised.
Look at Milwaukee. Who would have wanted to play in Milwaukee?
And then
5 years.
Giannis, yeah.
Giannis comes around. You build a cast around him. Chris Middleton becomes an all-star because of what
Yep.
Giannis does for
Mhm.
him. Chris Middleton is not an all-star caliber player. He's a fringe all-star.
Guys like Brooke Lopez
He's
are
a fringe all-star, right?
Cool.
But these,
Yeah.
but these
Jeez.
aren't. There's Giannis doesn't have all-star supporting cast around, but they're the best. They're the best record in NBA
Yep.
because they built around.
They built a
stars.
proper
Piece
team.
they
Yeah.
needed.
Built around
Yep.
the star player. So
Yep.
you build around Zion, who can put up Giannis-like numbers, like we said. You've got Brandon Ingram, who would be Giannis' best teammate if he played in Milwaukee,
100%.
right? So the pieces
yeah.
are there for
I
for
think-
Zion to
I-
succeed,
I
even
think-
as the best player.
Like when I first thought of the idea of Ingram and Zion playing together, I didn't initially like it, but now that I'm kind of seeing them both in action and I'm seeing the steps that Ingram is taking and I'm seeing how good Zion is right out of the gate, I think Brandon Ingram is probably one of the best teammates for Zion to have just because of their playing styles. I think if Zion's getting shut down by an elite big defender, give the ball to Ingram and let him cook, right? Like, or even vice versa. They can both bounce off of each other. If one of them isn't performing well, then the other one can step up. And there's different dimensions to their scoring too. If they're defending the paint really well, then maybe you use BI a little bit more. Maybe you try to get in transition more. You know what I mean? Like, I think there's a lot of scoring options and there's a lot more scoring potential on the Pelicans, for the future.
Yeah, I think the Pelicans will be a playoff team this year. I think they're going to catch the Grizzlies. It's just all the indications are pointing towards that happening. They're just
Zion staying healthy,
much better equipped.
As of
Yeah,
right now,
yeah.
yeah.
knock on wood.
I think for the foreseeable future, the Pelicans are a playoff team. So
Yeah,
they're improving every year.
I don't
and
see
they're-
why they can't be.
If they're already a playoff team with a 19-year-old Zion Williamson, and how old's Brandon Ingram? Like 22, 23?
Zion's yeah, he's 22. He's 22.
So there
Yeah,
you go.
22.
If they're already a playoff team now, what's it going to be like in 5 years when those guys are in their
Yeah,
prime?
for sure.
So we'll end it there. Thank you to Colin Rowan for being on this episode. Let us know what you think about Zion Williamson's potential as the best player on a championship team. You can do so on social media or in the comments of the YouTube video. All the links are below, but we post every single day at the Amateur Sports Podcast, so keep coming back for the daily content. We will see you again tomorrow.